सॉल्विंग SFGs डे एंड नाइट, लेवल 1 नहीं किया था उन्होंने पहले सॉल्व, तो रात को बैठ के करते थे।
मेरे को वो एक रैंक की तलब लग गई थी सर, एक बार आने लगी तो फिर लगा कि नहीं यार नीचे नहीं जानी चाहिए।
जो यहाँ पे टेस्ट होगा आई विल गिव, चाहे मैंने कैसे भी दिया हो, पर मैंने वो टेस्ट रेगुलर दिए जब तक मैं यहाँ पे था।
Hello everyone, welcome to the ForumIAS Townhall, that is daily newspaper analysis. Today on December 6th, we are going to discuss these following 5 articles today. So the first article is about a growing shadow over digital constitutionalism. Recently, you have seen that there is a controversy over the 𝐮𝐩𝐝 app where the government has withdrawn its previous order. So it is showing that how technology is infringing in our political sphere also, because more or less everywhere we are seeing there is an intrusion of digital technologies in our life, even in our governance also. Something like even the Aadhaar, welfare schemes, all are more or less dependent on digital technology. So that raises a question regarding the digital governance also, certain political rights issues which is associated with it. And in this article, the author has given a concept of digital constitutionalism. So what exactly the meaning of digital constitutionalism? What are the certain key issues from the political point of view in this digital space we are going to discuss, and what could be the future course of action to balance out both the things. The next news article is about the Chile's lesson for the India school conundrums. So basically, recently, India has slipped in its climate performance index from 13 to 23 position. So it is mainly the reason behind it was that India was not able to phase out the coal energy dependency. So it raises an issue that how India should balance out its climate commitments as well as ensure that the climate actions cannot impact the livelihood of the peoples also. The third article is about the mark for the life. The third article is talking about the acid victims, survivors. It is recently the Supreme Court has directed the High Court regarding the resolve the pendencies of the cases associated with the acid attacks so that the acid victims get the justice on time. And it also talked about the after rehabilitation issues also. The fourth article is about deal without peace. So recently, the American president, Mr. Donald Trump, has recently broke out a peace deal between Rwanda and Congo. So in this article, we will be seeing what was the issue of Rwanda-Congo conflict in a brief way, and we can expect a question in the prelims about the location of these controversial areas also. The fifth one is where cotton clouds hangs heavy. So it is talking about what are the challenges that cotton farmers are facing in our country and what could be the possible solutions we can have to resolve their issues. So let's start with our first news article, that is a growing shadow over digital constitutionalism. So basically what is happening that recently the 𝐮𝐩𝐝 apps created a controversy, and it raises a few questions regarding the digital governance and balancing out the certain fundamental rights or the rights of individuals. So if we see what are the concept of digital constitutionalism, because this is talking about a concept which says that as we are progressing, there is obviously technology is going to be everywhere. The digital governance is now going to shape everyday life. For example, KYC norms, welfare disbursements, Aadhaar linked services, online education, even the political speeches, all those things are now as anyhow is associated with the technology. So in this era, we have to ensure that the constitutional principles like liberty, dignity, equality, accountability, and rule of law should also be ensured and should also be protected. It should not get compromised due to the excessive use of technology. So this is talking about the digital constitutionalism. So extension of constitutional principles into the digital space, ensuring the technologies like AI, data analytics, and surveillance operate under democratic restraint. So basically the certain issues which is being highlighted in this article is first one is regarding the surveillance. As we know that the digital technologies, metadata and all those things can be used for in the name of security purpose, it might be misused as a surveillance. So it might create an impression of big brother watching. So the surveillance expansion from visible policing to the metadata tracking, location tracing, and behavioral analytics. It will create a silent surveillance ecosystem, chilling the dissent and the free expression. So what it is trying to say that when we increase the surveillance, it is leading to a concept of self-censorship also. What does it mean? Because when you are continuously into the surveillance of a government, you will be going to self-censor yourself. You will be hesitate in your free speech because you have a fear that the government might observe it. So it's creating a chilling effect on our fundamental right, that is of freedom of speech. The another issue which it is talking about is the shift of data control. We can see that these technologies require the participation of private players also. So anyhow, you will be seeing directly or indirectly a control over your data is switching to the private players. So this created because the government is accountable to you, not the private player. So how government is going to ensure that these data are not misused by the private players? That is also an issue which we have to address. Along with this, there is a concept of black box. What does it is? The black box is the algorithms is going to make decision for us. So there is an automated decision making. So algos, the digital space is going to decide who is going to what. Going to get what. Means any welfare schemes, if it has to be disbursed, then we will be using certain algorithms and that will be deciding that this person should be given that benefit of the welfare schemes. That is a good initiative because it will increase efficiency. But at one point, there could be the possibilities of error. Because there is an error, could be the possibilities. We need to know what is the solution you have. You don't have any solution because if you go to the system or you will go to the government that I need it, but due to the error decision making by these algorithms, I was denied the basic welfare schemes benefits. The government can simply say that it's a technical errors. They can't do anything. So this is creating the black box. So ensuring the accountability is an issue where we are going to be excessive dependent on algorithms to take decision on our behalf. Apart from this, you might be hearing about the facial recognition technologies, which is being used for better surveillance, crime detections, and all those things. But this technology, facial recognition, is not foolproof. There is also the possibilities of certain errors, and it could lead a small error by the technology. Because as we will have a trust on the technologies, and if the technology is giving a wrong data, we might arrest some innocent people. And apart from this, the facial recognition is also creating the scope for the discrimination also. Because in the US, we have seen that this facial recognition is being used to discriminate between white and blacks. So that is also possibilities of misuse over it. And if we see that all those things are quietly violating our constitutional principles. And this is where the author talks about digital constitutionalism. That we have to ensure that the constitutional provisions should be protected in our digital space. So these are the key concerns: surveillance expenses, weak data protections, algorithm governance, discriminatory technologies, legal and institutional gaps. For example, India's Information Technology Act 2000 faces on the regulating platforms not protecting the citizen liberty. So it is talking about that the laws like IT or digital laws, they are basically focusing on controlling the technologies or act as a governing platform, not as defending the citizens' liberty. So these are the issues. So what is the solution being suggested? The reforms we can have it for the better digital constitutionalism. First, we can have independent digital rights commission so that it will monitor the violations and ensure the accountability. We can have a surveillance regulation so that we can limit the surveillance allowed only under judicial warrant based on the necessity or proportionality and transparency. We have to ensure the accountability of the algorithm also, like mandatory bias testing, periodic audits, and right to the explanation. We need to limit the purpose-specific data collections, severe penalties for the misuse, we can ensure it. And we have to promote the digital literacy also as a constitutional empowerment. Because when the citizen is aware about its digital rights, they have any digital literacy, then only they can ask for the accountability from the government. So this is how we can use it. Let's move to our next news article, that is the Chile's lesson for the India's coal conundrum. So basically, what happened recently that India performed on climate change performance index. Here, India's rank slipped from 13th position to 23rd. And the reason was given that India has failed in phasing out the coal. If we see, to phase out the coal, there should be two issues which is going to arise. First one, regarding the coal, we know that coal provide low cost electricity and providing the jobs. So ultimately, it is ensuring better livelihood, especially the underdeveloping countries. But on other hand, the coal is also responsible for the global warming, air pollution, which is in long term going to impact our life. So it's something like कि जल्दी मरना है कि बाद में मरना है ना? So that is the confusion going on while phasing out the coal, because coal has certain advantages, but phasing out is also necessary to protect the environment. So what happened that we can use the Chile's example as a good case study, because what they did, they shifted or transit from the coal-based energy to the renewable energy sources. How they did it? So to do a transition from coal-based to the renewable, we need two fronts. First one is we have to reduce the demand for the coal and increase the demand for the renewable energy. So these are two fronts. If we work on it, we will be able to transit from coal-based to the renewable energy sources. So how to reduce the coal demands? The Chile government comes up with a strict penalties like carbon tax, increase the compliance cost, and for how they increase the demand for the renewable energies, it incentivized like competitive auctions, faster completion of energy storage infrastructure. So all those things were supported by the political commitment also. So the political commitment of phasing out coal by 2040. So all these things help the Chile to move from coal-based to the renewable energy. That seems to be easy, but in case of India, this is not going to be a simple one. In India, it is going to be a little bit a harder side, because transition has certain challenges, because on one hand, we have to reduce the demand for the coal. In this front, we know that certain districts like Jharkhand, West Bengal, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, if there is an abrupt closure, it is going to create the loss of livelihood for millions of people, especially the weaker sections. That is going to create a social risk, which can ultimately lead to the certain protest also. So that is what the challenge lies. And if we haven't yet strong share of renewable energy, that is also a challenge that we have to work on here on this front also. So that is why it is being said that it is going to be a tougher transition in Indian case. But what should be our solution? First of all, we have to decarbonize. We have to focus on that. And how we are going to do that? We can prioritize the retirement of oldest, least efficient and most polluting coal plants, cancel the new coal approvals and replace the capacity with the firm's renewables. The TERI has and other studies has indicated that India can complete coal power phase out by around 2050 is a technically feasible if backed by strong policy and investment aligning with India's net zero 2070 pathway. So it is possible, but what required? A strong policy and investment and alignment. So what was the case in the Chile? There was a political commitment also. Another one is that we can apply the three broad action pillars like physical transition. Here we are going to focus on increasing the renewable energy shares. So we can rapidly increase the solar wind storage, strengthen the grids, electrifying the transport, industry and household to deepen the RE renewable energy demand. We can also bring market and regulatory reforms. We can introduce strengthened carbon pricing, rationalize the coal subsidies, adopt clean dispatch rules, design power and purchase contracts that prioritize the renewable over coal. And along with this, we can have a transition and social protection also. Because as we have seen that when we are going through a transition, we are also creating a scope for the social unrest, a social risk also. So we have to tackle that problem also. And how we can do that? The article suggests that we can have a Green Energy Transition India Fund, which can be used for the rescaling and creating alternative livelihood opportunities also. And one more thing what we can do is that the finance we are going to use, similarly we have like a district mineral foundation on a similar line. So that can also be used for the promoting entrepreneurship and diversifying the economic opportunities. The article is also talks about the financing model also. So what we can do here is that in the financing model, there should be the equal participation from the both stakeholder, that is government and private players. Government can use and or focus on community welfare, workforce rescaling in these types of areas, and private players can focus on expansion of clean energy infrastructure. So if we go with this approach, there is a possibility that we can phase out the coal. Now, let's move to our next news article that is regarding the acid attacks victim deserve better from the courts and law enforcement. So we see a recent development. In 2023, India reported around 207 acid attacks cases, with West Bengal topping and followed by Uttar Pradesh. Supreme Court ordered all the High Court to submit details of the pending acid attack trials and proposed setting up a special courts for these cases. Let's understand what exactly the thing is. If we see an acid attack victims, they are fighting at the two fronts. First one is to get the justice for the incident or the unfortunate accident happened with them. And another one is after they getting a justice or after this accident, what about the post-rehabilitation or post-treatment? That is also a front we cannot ignore. It's not just limited to punishing the culprits, it's also to rehabilitating those acid attack victims, because they suffers not only from the physical impact, it has also a mental trauma also. So for the justice side, what are the issues we are seeing? There is a long delays, low conviction rates, poor investigations, and the article used a case study of Shaheen Malik in this to demonstrate this, how she is not still got the justice. And what are the things required for the post-attack rehabilitation or the treatment is they are demanding that they should be given a formal recognition in the rights of person with disability Act, or we can say PWD Act 2016. So they are saying that acid attacks is also going to create the disability to them. So they should be considered or given a formal recognition under this act so that they can have a better access to the opportunities. All those things can be seen as already been directed by Supreme Court in Lakshmi versus Union of India case. Here, the Supreme Court directed the government to provide post-treatment facilities, banning of sale of acid, creating the special courts also for the faster disposal of the cases. Even Section 124 of BNS deals with the acid attack. So these are the things which is required so that the acid attack victims can live a dignified life. Let's move to our next news article, that is deal without the peace. So recently, the Donald Trump has tried to break the deal between Congo and Rwanda, and there is a certain conflict going on between Rwanda and Congo. So this is the map we can see. So here it is Rwanda. This is the Democratic Republic of Congo. And this is the area Goma, which is of area of contention right now. Let's first see what exactly the demand has been made in this deal. And we are seeing that the peace deal which has been made, it is not going to be reflected on the field because again, the tension has erupted back. So what was the deal demanded? That Rwanda, let's understand the stakeholder first. So in Congo, there are Hutus community living there. And in Goma regions, there are some Tutsi community living. And there is an M23 rebel groups which is trying to protect the rights of Tutsis against the Hutus. And the Congo, this M323 rebels are in conflict with the Congo government. So this is a fight is going on in between M23 and Congo's government. This M23 rebellions is being supported by the Rwanda. So the Congo is demanding that Rwanda should withdraw its support or should withdraw the armed forces at their eastern borders. Here, there are certain armed forces. So Rwanda should withdraw its armed forces. This is the demand of the Congo. What is Rwanda is talking about? The Rwanda is talking about that the attacks being made by the Hutus on Tutsi community should be stopped. So this is what the demand of the Rwanda. Let's understand the historical background of this overall conflict. If we see, you might have heard in 1990s, there was in Rwanda, there was a genocide. And in Rwanda, the genocide was happened of Tutsi community. This Tutsi community was attacked by Hutus. But after some times, there was a regime change. When the regime changed, the Tutsi come in the power. And if the Tutsi is coming in the power, obviously the Hutus has to flee. So they fled to the Congo. So the Hutus fled to the Congo. But there were certain groups of Tutsi community also present in the Congo. So some rebellion or militia groups of Hutus continue attacked on the Tutsi group. And to protect the Tutsi group, M23 rebel group was formed. And Rwanda, obviously the Rwanda is a Tutsi-led community government. And here the M23 rebellion group is claiming that they are protecting the rights of the Tutsi community. So Rwanda was backing the M23 rebellion group. And M23 will come into conflict with the Congolese government or Congolese force. So that's what the issue is. That's whole the dispute was going on. And while the M23 was acting in the eastern border, it started controlling certain areas also. For example, the Goma regions. So Goma regions currently is under the control of M23 rebellion groups or Tutsi group. And this is what the demand of Congo is, that these people should be, the territory should be returned back to them. So that's a whole issue. And this is what the Donald Trump promised, that if both the countries resolve their issues, he is going to bring a lot of heavy investment in the regions, and which will be benefiting all the stakeholders. Let's move to our last news article, that is where cotton clouds hang heavy. So this news article is basically talking about the cotton issue, the issues being faced by the cotton farmers. Let's see a simple idea what exactly the cotton happened. We have a production and another component is sale. This is how the whole system is. If we see in the cotton scenario, the production is also declining. Reasons: first is unseasonal rainfalls. Unseasonal rainfalls. Along with this, poor seed qualities. So these are leading to reduction in production. On other front, when this farmer is going to sell their cotton, there also it is facing certain issues. Issue is about the profit margin, or we can say the prices is going to be reduced. There is a low prices, low demand for the cottons. And another one that is being augmented this issue is that India has allowed duty-free import of cotton. And what this is going to create, that this duty-free import of cotton from the foreign countries, that is going to be coming the cheaper prices. And this is going to create the competition for the domestic farmers like him. So obviously their demand of this cotton is going to be declined. So that is also an issue they are facing. This argument which has been given by the government for this duty-free import is that it will benefit the manufacturers as well as consumers because they will get cheaper cloths. So that was an argument that was given. But the farmers are saying that because there is better seed quality like BT cottons being used by the foreign countries, and because of that they have a higher production, and because of that they are able to sell their product in the cheaper prices. But that is not the case in Indian farmers. Their seed quality is poor, and because of that their production is low. So there need to create a balance between these two concerning issues, and all those things is discouraging the farmers to cultivate the cotton. So we are saying there is a shift towards other crops. So overall, this is creating an issue in the cotton production. Government has come up with a procurement process also. So government through CCI, Cotton Corporation of India, they procure the cotton from the farmers. And they claim that it will cover at least 50% of their input cost. But this procurement is also not highly efficient. There are certain issues. First one is that the procurement is not happening on the input prices which is being promised by the government. For example, the government has promised there is a MSP for the cotton is 7,000. But that is not the case. The farmers are selling their crops at the cost of around 4,000, 5,000. So not on the input price promised by the government. Second one is a corruption in APMC. We all are aware that there is certain cartels being made in APMC markets and which discourage, or we can say which reduce the bargaining powers of the farmers. So that is another issue. Because of that, the procurement is not properly. And if we see the data, only 34% of the procurement is being done. So we can see the efficiency of the procurement is also very low. And along with this, there are certain logistical issues also, like no nearby APMC market for their cotton products. So the APMC market is not near to them. So these are the issues which is being faced by the farmers. One of the solution which farmer is finding out is shifting towards traditional seeds. What are those? So traditional seeds, also known as Kala Kapas. The advantage, first advantage, it is offering that there is reduction in input cost because it is mostly an organic one. So it does not require chemical fertilizers or require very little water. Whereas in comparison to the BT cotton, they require more waters. And if we see, sometimes it also leads to increasing production of output also. So sometimes there is an increased production also. That is why they are shifting towards the traditional seeds. And another advantage this has is that it is resist the pink bollworm. That is not the case in the BT cotton, which are more vulnerable to this. So this is a whole article which is talking about the key issues and the broader implication of these cotton issues. So that's all from our side. Thank you for joining us.